Let's talk about Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders and why he should be the second overall pick to the Washington Commanders. We all know that the Chicago Bears are going to draft Caleb Williams with the first overall pick. If the Washington Commanders had the first overall pick, they would definitely be all in on Caleb Williams. But I believe that Jayden Daniels is a phenomenal football player in his own right. When I look at Jayden Daniels, tremendous runner of the football at the quarterback position. He had 1,134 rushing yards this season, 10 rushing touchdowns. And he also had 3,812 passing yards as well, with 40 passing touchdowns to just 4 interceptions. His numbers were so great, he won the Heisman Trophy this season. And a lot of people will say the knock on him is that he played with tremendous talent, and Brian Thomas Jr., who is a phenomenal wide receiver with this team, and Malik Neighbors as well. Both of those guys will definitely be first-round picks at the wide receiving position. But when I look at Jayden Daniels, he wasn't just throwing the wide open guys the entire game and for the entire season. He was throwing these guys open, and he gave them the best opportunity to go out there and beat cornerbacks and beat safeties as well. He elevated the talent around him. Malik Neighbors, he's awesome. The same with Brian Thomas Jr. as well. But with that rushing threat added in with that strong arm that Jayden Daniels has, it elevated this LSU offense. The one thing that you could say about Jayden Daniels is that he was not that great at his old school in Arizona State University. And there was a lot of things going on at that time. They did not have the best playmakers around him. The offensive line was not the best. He comes over to LSU in a better situation, runs a prototypical system, and he looked phenomenal with this team. He's not your typical scrambling quarterback. Usually when you look at young quarterbacks, they're just looking to run outside the pocket. He's looking to extend the play, keeping his eyes deep down the field, and he changed his throwing motion over the last couple of years as well. When you look at him from year 2 to his last year in college, it's a completely different throwing motion. And I think that it has helped benefited him as well to getting rid of the football quicker. So the coaches have done a great job with him throughout his entire college career. And he's been running the prototypical system since he has been in college, even dating back at his old college when Herm Edwards was his former head coach, because you had Antonio Pierce who helped basically bring him in with the team as well when he was a recruiter with the team when he was on that coaching staff. So this kid has that talent. The thing that the Washington Commanders need the most, they need playmakers on the offensive end. And they went out and they got that. You have Austin Eckler at the running back position. Now, Austin Eckler is not the best running back when it comes to running the football in between the tackles, but he's a very good receiving back. But you have another good running back as well, and Brian Robinson Jr. You want to have a bunch of playmakers around Jayden Daniels to help him out. Because when you look at Jayden Daniels, he can carry the team on his back. He did that at times with LSU, but he's coming over to a tough division. With the Dallas Cowboys, they can get after the quarterback. The Philadelphia Eagles, they can get after the quarterback as well. And the same with the New York Giants. And the one thing that the Washington Commanders have been missing over the last couple of years has been a consistent quarterback. Their last consistent quarterback that you can argue would be Kirk Cousins. Alex Smith did have a decent tenure until he suffered that brutal leg injury, which basically ended his career. Since then, it's been a revolving door at that quarterback position. Go out there and select Jayden Daniels, and I think that you'll be in a great situation for the next couple of years. The one knock that I would say on Jayden Daniels on film, besides him coming from a loaded football team, he will go out there and take some big hits. And it doesn't look good because when you look at his body, he's not the biggest quarterback in this draft class. He's not the ripped up guy like a Will Levis. He's not big like Anthony Richardson or like Jalen Hurts. He's a skinnier type of quarterback, which is not a horrible thing because he can move around, he can shift, he can juke this way, and he can juke that way, and he can avoid pressure. But at the same time, you don't want him to go out there and take unnecessary hits from some of the bigger safeties and linebackers in the NFL, because then you'll be asking for trouble. And when I look at this Washington Commanders team, they definitely need a quarterback that can go out there and can create his own plays behind the line of scrimmage, because this was one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL from this season. Sam Howell was the most sacked and most pressured quarterback in the NFL this season. You can say that he held on to the football for too long, but at the same time, Charles Leno was a terrible tackle with this team. Andrew Wiley was no good with this team this season, and they went out and they cut Charles Leno. You bring in some brand new offensive linemen to help out this team. You bring in Tyler from the Dallas Cowboys at the center position, one of the better centers in the NFL, but it's going to take more than just that to help out this offensive line. You also had horrible play calling from Eric Bieniemy as well, to where you had Sam Howell throw the football 40 times to 45 times in a game. You do not want him to go out there and do that. Jayden Daniels will benefit a lot from having a strong run game and better offensive line protection. I do have my questions about Cliff Kingsbury because Cliff Kingsbury was not the best offensive play caller and head coach when he was with the Arizona Cardinals, but we've seen coaches before. They're out there, they're head coaches. They didn't have the best stint. When they go back to being in a coordinating spot, they are a better coach. So hopefully that is the case with the Washington Commanders. But I have a lot of questions about Cliff Kingsbury because he did not use DeAndre Hopkins to the best of his ability when he was with the Arizona Cardinals and he was their head coach and their main offensive play caller. So I have some questions about that. How will he use Terry McLaurin? Because you can move Terry McLaurin around. He's an outside wide receiver. You can put him inside the slot as well. But he's primarily known to be an outside wide receiver with this team. And he's been one of the best wide receivers in the NFL for the last couple of years. And the reason why I say that, over 1,000 yards receiving every single season in his career by catching footballs from guys like Dwayne Haskins, rest in peace, from guys like Alex Smith, and also Ryan Fitzpatrick as well, and from Sam Howell. He hasn't had a consistent quarterback to play with. So hopefully giving him Jayden Daniels will put them in a better situation. And I will talk about Drake Maye in just a couple of seconds. But when I look at this entire offense, there is still work that needs to be done. Jahan Dotson has to stay healthy with this team. Jahan Dotson in the past has been a solid wide receiver when he can stay fully healthy. But this is a kid that's been a first-round pick. 49 catches for 518 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. That may not look bad, but he cannot go out there and separate consistently just yet. And I do believe that better offensive play calling will put this kid in the best situation as possible. The Washington Commanders were in the bottom of the league in terms of being in separation. So besides Terry McLaurin, guys cannot go out there and just separate. You did have Curtis Samuel, and a lot of it was because of how the guys were being used. It was just a lot of deep routes deep down the field over and over again. They have to get creative with that bunch. And I do want to speak of Drake Maye for just a couple of seconds. Drake Maye comes from the same college as Sam Howell. When you look at the numbers, they're almost identical. Drake Maye is a better refined passer than Sam Howell. But if you go out there and select Drake Maye, you're basically getting another type of quarterback like Sam Howell. Look at what just happened with Sam Howell. And Sam Howell, in my opinion, was not a terrible quarterback with this team. A lot of people may disagree with that, but he was in a horrible situation. Yes, he'll hold on to the football for too long here and there, but it's like what I just said a couple seconds ago. The wide receivers can separate. So he would go out there and try to force the football into tight windows. And Sam Howell has a very close relationship with Drake Maye. When you look at these numbers on the screen right now, Drake Maye in his last season of college to Sam Howell, they're pretty identical. The only difference is that Sam Howell had more rushing yards. And I believe that Drake Maye is a better runner of the football than Sam Howell is. But when you look at Drake Maye's numbers, 9 rushing touchdowns, 449 rushing yards on the season, 24 passing touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. Those are legit the same numbers with the touchdowns to interception ratio. Passing yards, they're more for Drake Maye than they are for Sam Howell, and the completion percentage is higher, but just by a tick, 63% compared to Sam Howell's 62%. So I don't see them going out there and drafting Drake Maye because you basically just had the same quarterback in Sam Howell, who the Washington Commanders did let down with terrible coaching and bad offensive line play. And I look at the defense as well because this is the first full offseason with Adam Peters coming over and making some true decisions. You hired Dan Quinn, former defensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys, had a very good tenure with the Atlanta Falcons, led the Atlanta Falcons to going to the Super Bowl when he was their head coach. They did blow that 28-3 lead against the Patriots, but to get to the Super Bowl is impressive enough. Hopefully he can have a very good impact on this Washington Commanders organization. It's going to take more than just a year. And this defense, it needs work as well because they were last in total defense, last in passing defense, and they were 26 in rushing defense. I don't see them trading back up in the first round. And this is a team that's went out there and they have acquired some draft picks in the second and third round as well because you moved on from guys like Chase Young and from Montez Sweat as well. When I look at their defense, you have some very good players on this defense. You bring in Bobby Wagner, who is a solid veteran to have around. He's not the same player that he was 6 or 7 years ago with the Seattle Seahawks, but he's still a very good linebacker to have around with this team. And he was coached up by Dan Quinn early in his career when he was a former defensive coordinator for the Seattle Seahawks. Frankie Louvu is a very good linebacker coming over from the Carolina Panthers. I love his game. He fits the system of Dan Quinn to a T. You bring in Dante Fowler, who can go out there, he can put the pressure on the quarterback. Only 4 sacks on the season and 1 forced fumble. But if you go out there and give him true snaps, he could be a very impactful defensive lineman with this team. You have Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen, one of the best defensive tackle duos in the NFL. I'm not worried about them. You have Dorian Armstrong as well, 7.5 sacks on the season. These defensive ends are going to benefit a lot from playing alongside those top defensive tackles. That's one thing that I can say. And those linebackers will benefit a lot as well. It's the secondary that I am worried about. Now, you bring in a guy like Jeremy Chin, his first season in the NFL, his second season in the NFL, he showed a lot of good promise. The last couple of years, the Carolina Panthers basically went out there and they cut his reps. I don't understand why, but I believe that Jeremy Chin can be a very impactful safety with this team. I think that he'll be very good. Jamin Davis is a solid linebacker to have as well. Hopefully he can develop to the next level. This is a kid that's also a first-round pick in the past. He's not a horrible linebacker with this team. He just hasn't went out there and he hasn't been that linebacker that they were looking for. And he's a very productive linebacker. 50 solo tackles, 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and 1 interception. Some of these defensive players were just put into a bad situation because of bad defensive play calling by Ron Rivera. And also by the defensive coordinator in Jack Del Rio that he had as well. We can go back to what happened a couple months ago when they faced the Chicago Bears and DJ Moore was going off for the entire game and made no adjustments. One thing we know about Dan Quinn, even though he's been shaky as a head coach in the past, he can go out there and he can make some true defensive adjustments. Simple as that. And when I look at the complete secondary, Emmanuel Forbes, first round pick of this team, did not look good his rookie season. He looked like a bust, but I will not say that he is a bust. I'm not going to give up on him. Like I mentioned before, he was put into a horrible situation by the play calling of Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera. If you can go out there, you can continue to put pressure on the quarterback, and you can go out there and you can help him out and put him into the right situation, he can live up to being that first round pick with this team. The Washington Commanders, they have some good players on this roster, but it just comes down to can they get the coaching staff right and can they get the right quarterback? Because at the end of the day, there is a bust rate with Jayden Daniels, like how it is with any quarterback in this draft class. The same goes with Caleb Williams, Drake Maye, Michael Penix Jr., Bo Nix, goes for all of these guys. But I believe that Jayden Daniels, the ability to go out there and run the football, and he can pass inside the pocket as well, would definitely help him out while he is still learning some of the learning curve early in the NFL. And they could potentially go out there and they could sit him down for a couple of games because you have Marcus Mariota right now as your starting quarterback. And we all know that Marcus Mariota is just a backup quarterback at this stage of his career. But if you want to go out there and not throw this kid to the wolves, let Marcus Mariota go out there and start a couple of games while he learns that playbook from Cliff Kingsbury. But I expect for the Washington Commanders to be in a better situation for this upcoming season than they ever were with Ron Rivera over the last couple of years. Granted, Ron Rivera did make a playoff appearance with Taylor Heineke, but it's one of those quarterbacks, again, have been able to find consistency at that position. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you guys feel about this? Should they go and draft Jayden Daniels or Drake Maye? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, when each and every last one, guys, stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.